Welcome back to another episode of Light Beer, Dark Money. I'm Sean Noble.
And I am Chris Clements.
And we're at...
where are we, Sean?
we are at our secret location.
We're at a non-disclosed location somewhere.
No, this will be...
We're in the deep state.
The deep state? No, I don't know about that. But this will be our offsite studio for when we have stuff going on.
And we have to talk.
Frame. Yeah.
Yeah. Rather than texting back and forth like we do, we need to talk. We need to get on it.
Right.
So very cozy.
Yes, cozy and warm, and we'll have some stuff. It's not done yet.
No,
not done yet. But look, the nominations for the cabinet keep coming.
Yeah.
There's still news about it. So I find it interesting. This Treasury Secretary thing is obviously causing some angst.
Okay.
Because he's, it was supposed to go to Lutnick.
Lutnick is going to Commerce.
He's going to Commerce, which was going to be Linda McMahon, who's now going to Education.
Yes.
Our buddy Russ Vogt is in the mix to go back to OMB, or maybe
Russ
something
Vogt
else.
would be great at OMB.
Well, he was there before. He was great before.
Fantastic.
But I think that given how much pressure there is to actually do some serious cutting of the federal government, he'd be perfectly positioned at OMB.
Yeah, for sure.
To take that on.
No, he'd be fantastic.
And so the questions, so there's still the Democrats freaking out about Tulsi Gabbard, which I find bizarre.
But don't you agree that's more just policy differences than anything else? There's nothing in her record that...
I think it's not policy. I think it's the fact that she used to be a Democrat.
Yes.
Pisses them off.
Yeah.
That
she's a Russian asset, said Debbie Wasserman Schultz.
A Russian asset who has
been... Thank you, Hillary Clinton.
I mean, she's had security clearance at the highest level for 2 decades.
Yeah.
I mean, she's been in military intelligence. I mean, it's absurd.
Ridiculous.
It's absurd.
It's a great pick, and I think she'll be confirmed. I think RFK will be confirmed. I think that's a good pick.
What about Oz?
And
Oz for CMS?
Yeah, I think Oz will be confirmed. I think Oz is a smart guy, and I think for that job, I think it kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
That he would oversee that. I think Hegseth has had a rough week.
Look.
The more that comes out about this,
we don't know everything that's going on there.
It's slimy, kind of yucky.
It's you know what,
but it happens.
Look, Pete he had been married. While being married, got someone else pregnant. I mean, this is
Pete.
This is not outside his realm.
Yeah.
The one that seems to be a mystery to me, because people act surprised when things come out, is Matt Gaetz. I mean, this guy, we've known that he's been a pedophile for...
You said it. You said the word that cannot be said.
What do you mean it can't be said? He had sex with an underage woman.
With a 17-year-old.
A 17-year-old.
Who then, he says he didn't know she was a 17-year-old, started dating her, broke it off, then started dating her again when she was 18.
Oh.
It's the most disgusting thing. And here's my deal in terms of intellectual honesty and just consistency. If you don't want the Democrat having sex with the Chinese spy, right? If you think that's wrong, think that's a bad thing, and he should have been kicked out of Congress or whatever else and lost his security clearance, then you got to have an issue with the congressman having sex with 17-year-olds.
I would
and then
so.
Dating them after when they supposedly
after
turned
became
18.
Legal.
It's unbelievable. People falling on their swords for him.
Yeah, I understand why Trump wants him, because he sees him as a bulldog.
There's plenty of bulldogs out there.
But there are, and that's the thing.
There's plenty of attorneys generals who would go into justice, who've been under the heavy hand of justice over the last 4 or 5 years, and would know where to go, where the bodies are buried, and would clean house.
Why not Ted Cruz?
Ted would be amazing.
I mean,
wouldn't he?
Talk about a guy who would know where the bodies are buried. Mike Lee. Yeah,
Mike Lee would be fantastic.
I mean, Mike Lee, his dad
Mike
was
Davis
Solicitor
would be
General.
fantastic.
I mean, there's a bunch.
There's a bunch of guys who would be tremendous.
I mean, in both Ted Cruz and Mike Lee's instance, you'd have an immediate appointment of another Republican, so you don't lose any. You don't even miss a beat.
No.
I would assume that Ted Cruz would be confirmed by unanimous consent.
You love to punch, but the Senate.
They want him out of there so bad. They'd be so happy to see him go.
So happy. I think the truth is true. He's slated to head up the Commerce Committee, though. This Senate Commerce.
Is that right?
Yeah. And then he'll be ranking in the majority, I think, for judiciary. So there might be some things that he just wants to do.
Right, he's behind Grassley.
I think he's behind Grassley. So there's going to be some things that he wants to do, perhaps. But I think those picks would be tremendous. I kind of think this is all false flag, and you and I have talked about this. Well, Gaetz, it doesn't make any sense. So the ethics committee was supposed to release last Friday. He resigns basically Wednesday, Thursday. We had our podcast Thursday. And you got to think that, that they're saying 30, 40 senators are prepared to vote against him. And you really want to have – there's so many other good nominees for good positions, and I think Trump overall has done a great job. And you want to fall on your sword for this guy?
It seems to me that doing a recess appointment on this one would create a lot of angst.
Yeah, you would think.
I don't know. We'll see how it plays out. And maybe it is. Maybe it is literally just the thing that gets everyone's attention, while all the others kind of slide through.
Yeah. My thing about Pete Hegseth again goes not so much for his personal choices, and this sexual assault charge seems kind of slimy on the other side, but it's just was he well vetted? Was he honest about it? And if he lied to Trump about it or lied to Trump's people about it, that's a bigger problem.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we don't know. I mean, because Trump has chosen not to use the FBI vetting process in the traditional transition.
Well, because the FBI has been vetting Trump now for better part of 8 years.
I get why. I get why. But it may be that some things are falling through the cracks.
Yeah, you would think.
Have to see.
You would think.
But the Senate will do what they're supposed to, the advise and consent. Every senator, I feel like, has a pretty good sense of, hey, the president has the ability to pick who he wants.
Yeah.
That they will ask tough questions of those that they think need the tough questions asked. And,
the fact that we're just in November and all these appointments are coming fast and furious.
This is the fastest anyone's ever moved.
And I think there's some advantages to that because it is November and the public vetting happens ahead of time.
Yeah.
So a lot of the stuff gets decided and gets fleshed out well before January.
I mean, the hearings on this stuff are late January.
Yeah.
So, we're going to see there's going to be some movement. There's going to be some changes. There's just no doubt. Some people take themselves out of the running maybe. I mean, who knows?
Now, my understanding was that Larry Kudlow was up for Treasury, and he turned it down.
I think his name. I think he was mentioned. I think he took himself out just to stay out of the mix because I don't think he wanted to put his TV show at risk.
Yeah, that's as successful as it's been.
Yeah, I mean, there's and that's the interesting thing about this is that, like Sean Duffy at Transportation, great guy,
great
pick. The first thing that one of the headlines say, former MTV reality star picked for, I was like, come on, that was 30 years ago.
I know.
And he's been a successful lawyer, a successful congressman since then.
But even during this whole process, the press is showing why we can't stand them.
Yeah.
I mean, because even with Pete Hegseth, I mean, they're like, Saturday Fox in the Morning host. And he's been a lot more than that. He's had a very accomplished career.
Not a weekend host.
And all of them are very well accomplished, including Tulsi, including RFK, and they're treating them like they're also rans, and it's just not. It's not. Yeah, not true.
But speaking of the media, we now have this news coming out of NBC Universal. They're spinning off MSNBC, CNBC. They're going to
Comcast. It was announced this morning. Comcast is spinning off their news divisions, MSNBC and CNBC, and their star anchors of Morning Joe went and kissed the bitter ring of President Trump over the weekend.
Which, look, I
mean, talk about
it.
Phony and fraud, Mika and Joe. Phony and fraud.
Well,
I mean, Joe Scarborough.
It's sticking their finger in the wind.
Is the biggest fraud in media, and it's just disgusting.
You think so?
You think?
You think he's the biggest fraud?
Well, I mean, he has basically carved out a career for himself. Doing exactly that. Which way should I go?
Well, that's the way he's been. I mean, he came to Congress in 1994 as a rabble-rouser, true believer, staunch conservative, and he stayed that way for a few years. And now,
did you work with him at all?
A little bit. I mean, I knew him back then briefly.
Like I had met him back in that day a couple times, and he had come to National Beer Wholesalers stuff, and people interacted with him. Nice enough guy. And then he went to media, started hanging out with Mika, and they got together, and the rest is sort of history.
Yeah.
And I just can't even imagine. I mean, kudos, I guess, to Trump, and he does this. Oh, you want to come meet with me? Yeah, sure. I can only imagine with that to be a fly on the wall at a meeting like that.
Look, I think Trump gets
2 weeks ago you were calling me Hitler. 2 weeks ago, you said I was a threat to women's health.
Joe's been,
and now here you are.
But I think Trump is, he has the ability to be very gracious, and pull people back in, and that's why I think this presidency, these next 4 years, are going to be different than a lot of people expect, both on the right and the left. I think the left is going to be shocked by how accommodating he's going to be to some of the ideas on getting some big deals done.
Yeah.
And the right is going to be unhappy with some things that he wants to do.
That's an interesting perspective, I think.
I mean,
I
think
he wants
he's
to do big things.
He wants to do big things. He's ultimately a deal maker. And you're not going to get a deal done on big stuff without a bipartisan approach. And the hard right is going to be pissed when he reaches out to Democrats, and the Democrats are going to be, the hard left is going to be pissed when he actually does something that they don't think is even possible for him to be thinking about, because it goes against their whole he's a Hitler or a Nazi or a dictator. When he does something reasonable, they're going to be like, it's going to be heads exploding.
Yeah. No, I mean, he's got 40 years. This is it. And I think he wants to lay the groundwork for J.D. Vance to be his rightful successor, and whatever that looks like. Certainly, as Director of National Intelligence, if Tulsi Gabbard has a great run there, that would be an amazing ticket.
Yeah.
So that's making people's heads explode all by itself.
Sure.
I'm really enjoying the RFK appointment, though, because I know some people who are part of the deep, deep state, and they are losing their noodle.
There are. This is
like people who are intimately connected with Pfizer and Moderna, and they're not happy.
Big pharma is and look, and this is one thing that I'll caveat, not a caveat, it's just a warning to those who think that RFK is going to go in and just change things overnight. You have to understand, the largest monstrosity in D.C. outside the military industrial complex is Big Pharma.
Yeah.
Big Pharma. And they are $1 trillion industry. They are not going to go down without a huge fight.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that guy better have a security detail. And I'm not being facetious. I mean, his life will be at risk. I really believe that. He should absolutely get some kind of a security. I don't know what kind of security HHS has, as far as because each department has their own security agency type. But he's going to need security.
Well, they're firmly integrated with the FDA. they're firmly integrated with so many agencies within HHS, and that is the major issue. And I think when people call RFK anti-vax, I don't listen to his being expository about vaccines as being anti-vax. I think he wants to get better testing.
He's just asking questions.
And he wants to understand the correlations between different chronic diseases and how that might relate to vaccines.
No.
I went online just as a lark, and I looked up what were the vaccines that you and I got back when we were kids, like 74 or 75. There were only 5 of them.
Is that right?
And now there are 15 recommended vaccines.
Wow. That's a lot.
And in multiple stages.
Yeah.
And I don't know how you've done your kids, but we vaccinated our kids over a very long period of time.
We spread it out. Yeah.
Because all the schools require all these different vaccines. And no one's saying that, we need to get rid of the polio vaccine or get rid of all these. But, when you and I were kids, we didn't have chickenpox vaccines.
No.
You went and got the chickenpox.
You got the chickenpox. And then
and then you had
for life.
immunity. Imagine that. So so many different vaccines now and so many different chronic health problems that our society is facing. I think the questions need to be asked.
Yeah.
And it's certainly in terms of our food supply, what are we putting in our food supply that is causing some of these chronic health issues?
Well,
those are all great questions.
Yeah, and
I don't think he has all the answers. I don't think he pretends to have all the answers.
But
they're
the
all
questions need to be asked, and just asking questions are going to freak people out.
I mean, I saw a meme the other day. Just the ingredients of Fruit Loops in Canada versus the U.S.
Yeah.
That is a question that needs to be asked.
Well,
because they're totally different, ladies and
even
gentlemen.
the New York
It's
Times
bizarre.
was trying to they tied themselves in a
That's where I
knot
saw
by
it.
saying, "Oh, they're just exactly the same,"
Except
and they're not the same.
Xanthan gum and blah, blah,
all
blah,
the
all
crap
these different chemicals that are
they
in
use,
the food.
They use natural colorings from
Carrots
actual food
and blueberries in Canada, and then we have all this yellow number 5. And,
right. It's just
I
nuts.
keep seeing that. I don't think he can even do this, but that he's going to mandate that Coca-Cola replace high fructose corn syrup with real sugar.
Well, and I think that look, all you have to do
Coca-Cola
is take
would be smart to do that a long time ago.
Well, they will do that because the market will do that
Yes.
if we take away the subsidies on corn syrup.
Exactly.
You take the corn subsidies out, and all of a sudden let the market play itself out. It's going to be real sugar again.
Yeah. And even to this day, what do people gravitate to? Mexican Coke.
Yeah.
Why?
Gets better.
Real sugar.
Tastes better. Tastes better.
Real sugar.
Real quickly before we wrap, Biden's gotten bold on the Ukraine. He's authorized
what's
the
your take
missiles
on
into Russia.
What's your take on that? Are we wagging the dog a little bit?
I think
it's a little bit after the election.
Let's just step back and think about the Democrats who said he's not fit to run for office.
He just celebrated his birthday.
Yeah, today.
Yeah. I saw the picture of him blowing out the cake, and really somebody should tell him that the table's not on fire. It's a cake.
But here's you had the entirety of the Democratic establishment saying he's not fit to run for office.
Well, I don't know if
now he's shooting missiles. He's allowing long range missiles into Russia.
Which my understanding is the generals were against that. Perhaps
I don't know. It is something that he had prohibited before, and now he's pulled the trigger. And I don't know if this is an attempt to give Ukraine an upper hand prior to Trump coming in.
Well, and the Russians have lowered their threshold on the use of nuclear weapons.
Yeah, they've changed their standard operating procedures.
So there's a lot of fear, especially on the right, that he's wagging the dog to try to get us into a broader war before Trump takes office. I don't know. I don't know if that's the case. There's a lot of people just in the broad spectrum of pro-Ukraine who are like, this should have been done a long time ago, and we needed to take the fight to the Russians a long time ago. There's going to be a brokered settlement here in the next 6 to 8 months, one way or the other.
Well,
and whether I don't think the Russians are gonna give up the Donbass. I don't think they're going to give up Crimea. They've had it for way too long. We seceded that to them when they invaded under Obama.
So you think this is going to end up with Zelensky getting basically the original contours prior to Russia coming in,
with the caveat that they will not join NATO.
NATO, yeah,
yeah, which was the off ramp a year ago.
Well, and them not being in NATO has always been a part of the process.
That's always been like the
Russia
big sticking
doesn't
point.
want a border with a NATO country.
Yeah. So it's always been, well, especially a country that they consider a sister. They can still consider it as part of one of their own, but
right.
But the Russians and Ukrainians, I mean, they're interchangeable for a matter of history.
Yeah.
And so I get that piece of it, and I think it's going to be exactly what we thought it was going to be a year ago. There's got to be an off ramp because this is not working, and we don't want World War III.
Right.
And there's some oligarchs making some money on this as well. There's got to be.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people making money.
Yeah.
That's part of the problem.
And but the good thing that may come out of this, however, is one thing that Trump really pushed on, and rightfully so, during his first administration, was NATO and the European allies paying their fair share of the bill. And he never said he wanted to disband NATO. He never said he wanted to blow up NATO. But he would say, well, maybe we don't fund it as much, because we're the ones funding everything.
Right. I mean, and there's nothing wrong with him saying, look, we're spending too much. You guys need to step up.
It's
or
2%
we're going to go away.
of their budget
that
they've committed to. Now, rightfully so, countries have stepped up, but there's a lot we can do to prop up those countries economically and start selling them our own natural gas, liquefied natural gas. And so they're not reliant on Russia,
right?
Which was a huge geopolitical mistake by this administration. Made no sense.
Yeah.
Why we stopped those sales and those shipments, because we would have had the upper hand in this.
Right.
And if we drill, baby, drill, like Trump wants to, and we expand our capacity for oil and gas in this country, that puts pressure on oil markets, brings oil prices down, and guess what happens to Russia? They don't have the money to...
Right. It bankrupts them. Just like when Reagan did it in the 80s.
Exactly. And it bankrupts Iran.
Right.
And then what happens? We have the upper hand.
We have world peace.
We have upper hand. And Iran can't be causing problems in the Middle East, and Russia can't be causing problems internationally.
Yeah.
Imagine that.
Imagine that.
Just a bunch of gas stations that we just need to squeeze dry.
Right. Right.
And we can do it because we're America and they're not.
Yeah.
And so the point I'm making is that from a geopolitical standpoint, Biden's foreign policy with regard to energy has been a complete total disaster.
Well, it is emboldened Russia and Iran.
Completely.
And it needs to be just the opposite.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, that's it for now, folks.
That was back and forth. We'll have
more for you to
decor.
If you're watching, you'll have more to see. If you're listening, so be it.
Yeah. And we're going to have some great guests on a regular show this week, so please listen. And thank you for listening. Thank you for being part of the Lightbeard Dark Money family.
All right. Just like and subscribe.
Yes, like and subscribe. Remember, we're a podcast about faith, freedom, free enterprise. God bless.
Thanks, guys. See ya.